Hi, welcome. My name is Rachel B. Lee, and I'm the Senior Brand Manager for Software Advice. Our mission is to help small businesses grow and thrive through technology. We have a team of Austin, Texas based advisors right here that you can chat with one on one and help guide you through your software search. Definitely check it out if it's something you think you need. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. I have a super special guest. Her name is Barbara Weltman. She is an award winning author and founder of Big Ideas for Small Business, a resource center for small businesses and entrepreneurs. She blogs for the Small Business Administration, and her work has been featured in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Forbes, and more. She's pretty much a lady boss. Welcome, Barbara. So glad you're here to join us.
Why, thanks so much for having me today.
We're
Glad
here.
to join you.
We're in it. We're rolling with the technology
Mhm.
punches, that's for sure.
Yep.
Well, welcome, Barbara. Excited to have you. 2020 was quite a year. Lots of learnings for small businesses, for all businesses, lots of transformation and shifts. We know how hard hit the 31 million US small businesses have what they've gone through over the last year and continue to go through. In your initial observations of these traditional businesses that weren't quite digital, what did you kind of see? What were some of the biggest mistakes when everything hit with COVID, and what are you seeing now?
Businesses that did not have a digital presence were completely isolated from their customers. Basically, they couldn't do any business. It's kind of like learning to swim while you're drowning. You're in the midst of it, and you have to figure out something real quick. And they had to pivot or fail, and that's kind of what happened. That the small businesses figured out that they needed a digital presence. They had to ramp up quickly, and they had to get familiar with a new way of doing business if they wanted to survive.
Absolutely, had to pivot fast, be innovative, and the ones that couldn't really haven't been able to survive, which is devastating. But the ones that have made some pivots have really excelled. Do you have any stories of any small businesses that you saw make this shift quickly and successfully?
I have a story about my daughter and her business partner who were all set to launch a new business last March, just when COVID hit. And the business model required them to be in person with HR people in companies all around. Obviously, with the shutdown, they couldn't do it, and they had to pivot, and they had to create a new business model going to the consumer, going online, and adopting all of the tools, the digital tools that would facilitate doing business, Shopify and such. And they did it, and they launched. You could say they had a second launch, but it was really their first. And their business is growing now.
That's awesome. And congrats to your daughter. There's nothing more personal than that story.
Yeah, you bet.
You're talking to businesses of all sizes, small businesses. When you're talking with them, I mean, not just in 2021, 2020, what is that number one priority that you keep hearing over and over again?
Well, actually, I hear two priorities. The two biggest issues that small businesses faced before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and likely will continue to face these issues going forward are cash flow and finding and retaining good employees. Certainly, a cash flow is an issue that business owners have to monitor. They have to have the money on hand to pay their bills when they come due, maintain their business credit, and function, and they need to find and retain good employees, and that's always challenging. It despite unemployment levels, finding the right employees with the right talent and keeping them and competing with large companies in terms of offering pay and benefits is always an issue. And here obviously is where uh, being digital is so helpful because it enables any small business owner to stay on top of cash flow, to monitor bills that are going to come due and making sure there's enough money to pay them, and to watch on a daily or minute by minute basis if needed. And when it comes to employees, and especially today with having so many employees remote, it's essential to work digitally with these employees to handle all the issues related to them, whether it's just collaboration in their daily work environment, to payroll issues, to handling, for example, withholding in different states, and certainly having remote employees, you can have this issue. So again, these issues will likely remain, and clearly having digital solutions will make your business life easier.
Absolutely. And you're talking a lot about there's a lot of benefits of the remote employees and being able to really, the world is your oyster in terms of how many the employees that you could potentially have. But there are implications of that financially. I know you have some tax expertise on that. And I just can't help but ask, but when you're talking about, your investments and priorities, if you have remote employees in different states or countries, is there a lot of implications on the financial side with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, look, when we had the old days a year ago, when you had your employees show up at your office, you knew you had to withhold for their state income taxes if you were in a location with state and local taxes. And that's what you did. Now, with your employees working remotely, your business location can be in one state, your employees can be in another, and different rules apply depending on those states. So some states have reciprocal agreements, some states don't, and things can get very, very complicated. But again, software solutions can manage this. This isn't something that you have to sit down with pencil and paper and figure it out.
I love that. I love that thinking, and that, you know, we can simplify it a bit with technology, but you kind of have to figure out what to use and what's going to work best for your business. In some of the questions that we know we've seen is cutting costs. How do I cut costs? Do you have any thoughts on that end, for small businesses that really need to cut down their costs?
Well, I think that the pandemic has showed that we probably don't need as much commercial space as we did before, even when things allow us to go back into the office. And so, if your lease is coming up for renewal, you may not want to renew, or you may be able to sublet some of your space and keep part of your workforce remote, and that is going to save money. Similarly, we learned during the pandemic, business travel, forget it. There was no business travel, and we still managed to connect through Zoom and other online solutions to connect with customers, potential customers, with our vendors and such. And I think that's going to continue going forward. And whining and dining, that didn't exist. I don't think that's going to come back the way it did either, despite new tax incentives to encourage to help the restaurant industry. They for 2021, you're going to be able to take 100% deduction for business meals, whereas it used to be 50%. So it's encouraging and trying to help the restaurant industry, but for businesses that are looking to cut costs, that might not be so important.
Absolutely. No, that's super interesting and helpful. Where do you think, so you're trying to cut costs, your prioritization in terms of cash flow, with the money that you do want to invest and your time and your effort, where would you be investing right now?
I've seen surveys showing that businesses are making big investments in things like AI and big data, using various digital solutions to help business. For example, small businesses may be adding bots for conversations online with customers, those kinds of things. And they're not necessarily dramatically expensive investments. It's just the way to go, that you do want to put your money into these kinds of things make that will save you time and probably save you money in the long run. And also consider that tax write-offs help to underwrite the cost of these investments. So you really can win all around if you think of, what can I do to simplify what I'm doing, whether it's managing your customers with software solutions there, handling your billing and accounting and bill paying. All of these things can be automated so that you don't have to spend the time doing it. And in the long run, the cost of the investment is modest compared to the savings of your time and the efficiency that you gain.
100%. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. Just to switch gears a little bit. Now, I know in 1997, 20 plus years ago, if I'm doing my math, I'm like 20 plus years ago, you wrote a top selling book called The Complete Idiot's Guide to Starting a Home Based Business. Love that title. Why did you write that book? What was in that book that has is still applicable to today, or what has really changed?
I wrote that book because actually I was a home-based business. I'm a lawyer, and I ran my practice from an office that I built onto my home. So I sort of been there, done that, could share my experience and how to make it work. And that was back in the day when it really wasn't that common to work from home, and you kind of had to hide the kids, make the dogs not bark, and all of that. Something that the pandemic has sort of helped us all overcome. And so I saw this as it was a really good solution, especially as technology developed to make it even easier. I mean, I worked back in the dinosaur days before we had uh, the internet and fax machines even, and so, but all of this technology came along to make it so easy to operate a business from home. What's more, last year I wrote a book, Home Business Magazine's Home Based Business Startup Guide, which is really a handy little guide to help anybody who wants to start a business from home. And today, with the pandemic, with people being laid off or furloughed, many people have chosen to start businesses. So many businesses failed during the pandemic. Many restaurants. I just know from my area what businesses have closed. But the good news is that even more businesses are starting up now, and starting from home, doing it right, making sure that you treat it like a business, that's an option. And many people have also looked now to make sure that they have a sideline business from home, so that they have another source of income if in the future there are more furloughs or layoffs. They're not completely without resources. And so having a home-based business makes sense for many people on many levels.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. All of us are home based at this point. I mean, a lot of us, not frontline workers, of course, but it's just fascinating how quick the acceleration and acceptance of working from home is. I know that I was a remote employee for before all this happened, and it was not the most accepted thing. It was challenging. It was challenging to get people to have their videos on and to be respectful that somebody else was on the line, not in the room. And now it's what we do. We're all kind of home
Exactly.
based. Many of us, not all of us, are home based businesses. And there's a lot of opportunity and savings in that end, for entrepreneurs, and ability to have maybe a more integrated, balanced life in many ways that I'm I realize I never want to do the like rush to the gym and the sitting in the car and like all these like extra time things when I could just like have a home-based gym and a home-based business and really save time and help you prioritize your day.
Definitely, and look, after my children grew up and moved out, I could have changed, but I got so used to the home-based business arrangement, I never wanna leave.
Yeah. What was all about the co-working and now it's I don't know, no and people are kind of weirded out by co-working because of everything. So yeah, just you know, you wrote something that was clearly ahead of its time and here we are where that this is what's happening. So 20 years from now, I mean, I'm pretty sure Mark Zuckerberg, many of the leaders out there expect most of their workforce, if not 50%, are working from home and planning for that. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes, Barbara. This has been super helpful. What are the top one, two, three pieces of advice that you would give to a business right now as they're thinking about investing, as they're thinking about cutting costs, and really not just surviving, but thriving?
One of my standard pieces of advice is to work with experts that you might know how to run the particular the core activity of your business, but you can't possibly know everything, and you don't have departments. You don't have a legal department, an accounting department, a marketing department, uh, an IT department. You need to have a team of experts that you work with, that you can turn to for emergencies, that you can discuss planning with, that you can help to grow your business. I just think that's essential, that you have to take the time and build your team. I think another piece of advice is, this almost goes without saying because I think small businesses are very sensitive to this, is that you do have to watch your dollars and cents, and that you have to monitor everything that you spend money on. And is that the best way to go? Are you negotiating the best terms for everything? Are you working things smartly? All of that. I think that's another piece. And finally, I just say for people that you really have to go for it. That you shouldn't be timid or afraid, especially for people who are who are starting a business or new to the business world. That what's the worst that can happen? You fail, you start again. All the most successful people have numerous failure stories to share, and so just go for it.
Go for it. Okay, quick follow-up to that. How much for somebody that's listening says, "Okay, I'm gonna start my business, but I need to be careful with my money." How much money do you think you should have in the bank to give yourself runway to be successful?
Well, it depends so much on various factors, which I'll point out, and then there's no single dollar number to give. So one depends on if this business is needed to put food on the table. If you have a spouse, a partner, or other resources that can pay your bills, then you don't need as much of a deep pocket to get started. Also, the type of business that you're starting. If you need to invest in merchandise, you're going to need more than somebody just providing a service. So, again, you have to look at all the factors, but clearly you need to plan a budget. You need to think of all the things that's going to cost you to get started: business licenses, merchandise, as I said, software that you're going to have to obtain, and the hardware and everything else to get going. So make a budget and be sure to build in a good cushion, because you might expect to start right away, but things happen. Things always happen. Things will happen. Just plan for it.
That's the one thing we know. Expect the unexpected. Whatever you think will happen is not the way it will go, right?
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much, Barbara. How can people stay in touch with you and,
People
keep
can
up with
find,
all
yeah,
the goodness?
they can find me at bigideasforsmallbusiness.com. They can sign up for my daily idea of the day and my e-newsletter, Big Ideas for Small Business, and get a lot of other free resources and information, and see what's happening with me and find contact information to contact me directly.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this today.
It was great.